Hello and welcome to Crushing Comics. I'm your host Peter, and this is the show where I fall in love with my comic collection all over again. So let's pick what we're going to unwrap today. I'm actually going to finish out the square up here. This is the only one left. Oh my goodness! We almost just recorded my death on camera here on Crushing Comics. So this is a big one. This is definitely going to be multiple books. The thing about my comic collection is I understand the show Hoarders a lot better now. Okay? It's not like those people set out to be like, I want to be the best hoarder of porcelain statues of cats. That's not how their life begins. They say, oh, I like porcelain statues of cats. Where could I get some more of those? Oh, you know, I can't miss out on this porcelain cat statue collection because it's not going to be around for long. And that's the way it proceeds. And it really doesn't seem that risky or unusual until you realize over time just how many porcelain cats you've really come to own. And then you feel locked in and you're like, well, I'm subscribed to my Porcelain Cat of the Month collectible edition now. I'm not going to cancel it before the special Porcelain Cat of December. And then you're in a house with boxes of porcelain cats that are towering over you and crush you to your death, as almost just happened with me in this book here. So, you know, I always say I don't regret my comic collection at all. It's something I've always wanted, and I love the idea of having this beautiful library in my home. But I don't know that I meant for it to get to this state. And I think I'm a little bit more choosy now about what I buy, because I realize that the things that are at a premium, you know, when you're younger, the thing that's at a premium tends to be money, and you can't have all the stuff that you want, especially when you're like a teenager in your 20s and you love comic books, but you can't have them all. But as you get older, the thing that becomes at a premium is your time and space. And for the hoarders, they're making time for their porcelain cats. But eventually, what are you going to just get, like a McMansion just to fill it with porcelain cats? Some people do. That's why McMansions exist. But you start to realize that you might not have the time to read them all or the space to enjoy them all. And so that's why I've gotten a little bit more selective over time about what comes home with me. But this is one I chose to have be a part of my life. This is a big old hunk of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Library Editions. On a Dark Horse tip after that last episode. So this is Season 9, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so let me download all the information into my brain. Okay. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one of my favorite television shows of all time, created by Joss Whedon, and it was originally a movie, which I did see in the theaters with Christy Swanson, Luke Perry, and Paul Rubin as one of the vampires, as well as Donald Sutherland as Buffy's original Watcher. It was very funny, went nowhere, and everybody knows the story right now. Whedon eventually got the rights to the property back, developed it for television, pitched it, got Sarah Michelle Gellar attached, who was fantastic on All My Children as Kendall, Erica's daughter, and eventually went to series mid-season. I still remember picking up the TV guide that had them on the cover and going, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I love that movie. Everybody I know watched it. We were the exact age of the kids in Buffy at that time who were in their sophomore year of high school, and that was the year I was in when the show came out, because I'm old now, and it was a big hit. So it ran for 7 seasons, 5, 6, and 7 switched networks from the original network, which was the WB, to the CW, which was ultimately made moot when the two networks merged later, and then it ended. And everybody, of course, wanted it back, as they wanted any cult thing back, but Sarah Michelle Gellar wanted to be onward and upward to other shows, as did several of the other stars of the show. But what happened was that eventually Joss Whedon decided he wanted to come back to the story, regardless of if all of the actors and actresses were available for the story. And Dark Horse had all along had the license to Buffy comic books, but they had been sort of publishing continuity light comics that maybe fit in between the episodes, comics that told something that we didn't see on the screen, but they weren't like official Whedon stamp, this is official Buffy comic books. But that's what he did with Buffy Season 8. And Buffy Season 8 was a single series that was meant to be very much a new television season for Buffy. Now, it wasn't like each issue was an episode. It was like each arc was an episode, so it was still shorter than your typical television series. But it did some really interesting things with some of the characters and some less interesting things with some of the other characters. Whedon really pushed it a little bit too far in terms of he could do anything he wanted on the comic page and turn Buffy into the kind of superhero that the budget had prohibited him from doing on television. And in writing after that, he realizes that maybe he had pushed it a little bit too far to the fantastical and had lost some of the focus on character that made Buffy something we all love. But it was still good. I've read it. It was really enjoyable. It has some great twists and has some really great uses of characters, especially Xander, who really kind of like finds his place in a way in that season that he hadn't had on the main show for a little while. So this is season 9. Season 9 was a little bit different in that Angel was brought into the fold as well, and alongside of the main series was also running an Angel and Faith series, which we will unwrap at some later point. So I actually haven't read these at all, and that's about as much as I can say to you about them because I only have read season 8. I think some, let's see, what interesting things could I point out here? So the big development at the end of season 8 was that Buffy makes a big change in how the world can interact with magic. And that plays itself out in this series, not only for Buffy, and magic inclusive of the magic that, you know, gives powers to some of our supernatural beings, not just magicians like Willow, but of course it has a pretty big impact on Willow as well. And Willow is, you know, one of my favorite characters of all time, and so that is really awesome to be able to read. So I suppose that once I get everything like unpacked here, that I probably some weekend will return to Buffy, reread season 8, and then read season 9. But these are more of those fantastic Dark Horse Library editions, just like Hellboy from last episode. And these are actually dust covered with a very, very glossy cover underneath, so they do not have that dust jacketless felty material that the Hellboys have that drives me just a little bit crazy. So I'm so happy to welcome these back to my collection, and I hope to get to read them sometime soon. Let's have the ceremonial shelving, please. That's 2 whole blocks of this shelf unpacked. Join me next time for more Crushing Comics as we continue to rediscover my comic book collection.